Hello children, nice to meet you once again, and you are welcome to the program of Guru Gatherer. So, how are you today? Hope you are safe. How about the assignment I gave you? Write in the summaries of the chapters we discussed. Did you do them? Hope you did well. Good. So, I know you are impatiently waiting for the new literature lesson. So, without getting any delay, I am going to start it. Let's start. The Prince and the Pauper by Mark Twain. This is lesson 5. As usual, this is the Prince and this is the Pauper. Let's go to the recapitulation. Yes, in the previous lesson, we did some chapter analysis. We discussed from chapter 18 to 26. This is the summary of the previous lesson. The prince refuses to steal or beg. Why should he steal or beg? He is the prince. The two girls at the farmhouse accept the story about his past. The prince escapes from mad hermit, and there was a duel between Hugo and the prince, and the prince wins over Hugo. Can you remember? The prince is wrongly accused of stealing a dressed pig. He is released with the support of Miles Hendon. Miles Hendon arrives the Hendon Hall with the prince. Hugh Hendon, Lady Edith, and servants rebuke him. Both Miles Hendon and the prince are kept in a jail. Chapter 27. From the social point of view, a large part of the novel has been leading up to this central climatic chapter. So, today we are going to discuss from chapter 27. The real king of England is now in one of his own prisons and is treated like a common prisoner. So, in the picture you can see both Miles Hendon and the prince, they are in the jail. Prior to this scene, Miles Hendon said many times that a king should always be subjected to his own laws. You know, Mark Twain uses other characters to bring out his own ideas. Hendon, speaking for Twain, says that if the king feels that the laws are too severe for him, the same laws are too severe for the king's subjects too. Why? Both are humans. All are humans. So, humans feel the pains in the same way. If the laws are good and just, no person, however high in power, need to be exempt from good and just laws. They can bear them. But here, laws are made only for common people, thinking they are barbaric. Young Edward's experiences as a commoner will cause him to vow to change all of the cruel, unjust laws of his land. Ironically, the surrogate king, Tom Canty, is now in the royal mansion, and he himself is already changing many of the laws that are unjust. Yet, even he is unaware that the true king is suffering unjustly. So, again in the picture you can see the prince who is in the prison. He is fed up of all these things. It is clear that Twain's chief concern here is on the gross injustices during Tudor period in England. He shows that the king also suffers from these rude laws like his subjects. Examples: even though Edward learns that the new king has already instituted a system of reforms designed to rid the nation of injustices, still two women are brought in and jailed because they are Baptist. Edward cannot believe that his kingdom can jail someone for his or her religious views. Look at the picture. There you can see the cruel type of punishments during Tudor England. So you can see two women, they are tied to a pole and the police constable comes and put fire. So you can see the king is looking at that. Here the king is the Prince Edward. King also suffers from these rude laws like his subjects. Twain, of course, attacks any government that would restrict a man's freedom to worship. These two women are compassionate, good women. They are specially kind to young Edward, and he is shocked beyond belief when he suddenly sees their burning at the stake. So in the picture you can see these two women who were very kind to the prince at the jail. Tom Canty may be on the throne of England, humanely trying to save lives, but the real king is in prison and witnessing the unjust execution of two good women for their religious views. Let's go to the video clip. You can see the execution of two good women for their religious views.
Our Father, that art in heaven, thy name be hallowed, thy kingdom come unto us, thy will be done and fulfilled in earth as it is in heaven.
O Miles Hendon, how can I bear it? They are killed in my name, and for what? If I was a prince, I could have saved them with the crook of my finger. Now I cannot even save myself.
But deliver us from the evil, for thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
O Lord, give me back the power to help my people. As you are my witness, I will never abuse it again.
Yeah, in the video clip, I think you are able to see the punishment given to two women, and look at the facial expressions of the prince. He felt so sorry, and he makes a vow to change the law in England, this cruel type of law. Yes. Among the other injustices that the young king noticed is the treatment meted out to an old lawyer. His crime was that he wrote a pamphlet against the Lord Chancellor, accusing him of injustice. As a result, the old lawyer became the victim of injustice. As soon as the young king is rightfully restored to the throne, he vows to correct such an injustice and others like it. He himself suggests that there will be much more freedom of speech. Twain's major point here is that all rulers and kings should always know how their subjects live and how the laws of the land are administered. Now we are going to discuss chapter 28 and 29. In chapter 28, Sir Hugh orders that the young king should be given some lashes. The boy decides that it is more befitting his royal status to accept the beating than to beg for mercy. So you know, in their traditions, kings never beg for mercy. They are brave. No English king has ever begged for anything. Let's go to the next video clip. So you can see how Miles Hendon is given the punishment. By this, Twain brings out that the young king possesses those qualities that will make him a good monarch.
Why, Brother Hugh, how good of you to grace the day's sport. What would our father say, do you think, to see us here?
See, he is unrepentant even now. Will no one still his lying tongue? Ah!
Peace! Brother Hugh!
Give me something to stop his mouth.
Stop this travesty of justice! That the law should aid a thief and pelt a hero is a disgrace to you all. Away! And leave this unnatural brother to his own devices.
Officer! Take him! Whip him at the post!
You should have held your tongue, boy.
You would whip me?
I must.
Wait! He is only a child! What is his crime but speaking up for me? For pity's sake, stop! I will take his whipping.
Very well. Let us be merciful. Release the cub and whip the wolf.
Yes. Did you see the video clip? Yes. Have you seen these types of stocks earlier? You can see how Miles Hendon is put in the stocks. That is the punishment given for him. So, when he is ill-treated, the prince can't bear it. He shouts at the crowd. So, he was given a punishment, another punishment, that is giving lashes. But you can see Miles Hendon takes the punishment on behalf of the prince. And you can see how bravely the prince shouted at the crowd, because he himself knows that he is the prince. Yes, let's go to the next slide. Hendon volunteers to take the lashes. So, for Hendon it was double because he is an adult. Hendon still considers the young king to be a mad young lad who might not be able to bear the severity of the lashing. Earlier, while they were in a prison, Hendon made sure that the young king got the choice morsels of the food they were given to eat. So, can you think, if he is a pauper, can he make a choice like that? Many people would volunteer to be beaten so as to impress a king if they knew it was king. But Miles Hendon does it not for the king. You know, he doesn't know that this is the real king. Yes, Miles Hendon does it not for the king, but for the sake of a young lad whom he cares deeply for. As a result, the young king understands that Miles Hendon saves him not merely from physical pain, but also from shame. As a result, he raises Miles Hendon to the rank of an earl. Chapter 30. Miles Hendon, who is a victim of injustice, has heard that the new king is correcting all sorts of injustices. He decides that he will try to arrange an audience with the king. The main problem is how can a pauper gain admission to see a king? So, in the picture you can see how Miles Hendon tries to meet the king. So, again his personality is decided by his attire. He is also wearing rags. So, he is another pauper. Edward is anxious to go, but there is a bit more of Twain's plot to develop before the final unraveling. It is the coronation day. In the picture you can see how they celebrate this day. Young Edward and Miles Hendon miss each other in the crowd as it gathers for the coronation. There was a big crowd. In the midst of all this confusion, it seems doubtful if they will ever see one another again. So, in this picture you can see how the prince struggles to go into the palace. Chapter 30 to 32. These chapters shift attention away from the young king. They mainly focus on Tom Canty, the pauper. Twain points out how magnificently the young pauper has adapted to the regality of his new life. Now he is little proud of his new life. He suggests that there is very little difference between a prince and a pauper. That is the attire. And we find lots of similarities between these two boys. Yes. So, he suggests that there is very little difference between a prince and a pauper, except for the clothes they wear and the company they keep. Chapter 31, it emphasizes the basic good qualities of Tom Canty. Although he is surrounded by great wealth, the sight of his mother and his horrible, cruel rejection of her caused Tom to long to be a pauper again. So, you can see how did mother identify her son? Yes, his spontaneous action, can you remember? Palms out before his eyes. In the picture you can see that. Although Tom Canty was very proud earlier, after rejecting his mother, he became a down-to-earth person. He became so sad. He truly wishes to put aside all of his new splendor and riches and rejoin his family. He is longing to become simple Tom Canty once again. He felt that his royal role is empty compared to the love he found with his mother and sisters. Yes, next we will go to the video clip. You can see how mother identifies Tom Canty when he is in recognition procession.
Tom, wait! Let them pass. Tom. It is my Tom. I see it now. The prince had spoke the truth all along and I never knew it. Speak to me, Tom. Tell me you are well.
For the nation's good, we will hear no more of this Tom Canty.
Tom, I care only that you are happy. You know my thoughts and prayers are always with you. Speak to me, Tom. Woman, I know you not.
Yes, we will discuss about the video clip. Did you notice how mother identified her son? And she was very happy to see her son. But you can see the answer given by Tom Canty. He said he couldn't identify her and he doesn't know her. What is the reason? Did you notice he looks at Lord Hertford? Once Lord Hertford told him to forget about the story of Tom Canty, because if the foreign countries come to know that the ruler is mad, there might be threats from foreign countries. So that's why he says, for the sake of nation and the country, he has to say that he is the Prince of Edward. In chapter 32, the true climax of the novel occurs. Recall that the prince and the pauper exchanged clothes early in the novel as a joke. Now the rightful ruler is restored to the kingship, and Tom is allowed to return to being a simple citizen once again. During the course of the novel, the many and varied experiences of the boys have their effect on them forever. Examples: Tom learned much about royalty. The young King Edward learned even more about justice and injustice in judicial system in his country. He learned how he should properly rule a kingdom. He came to know about the life of common man in his country because he led a life as a commoner. In the story, a prince and a pauper swap places, and it causes such consternation. Even the royal and learned authorities could not tell the difference. They simply are inclined to believe that these boys are mad. You know, courtiers thought the prince is mad. On the other hand, the members in Tom Canty's family thought Tom Canty is mad. No king would willingly give up his throne to become a pauper. Yet, this is exactly what Tom Canty does. The irony here is that he, as king, must be obeyed. The lords don't know which boy is the real king. If they obey the person who looks like the king, they could lose their heads. So they have to find the real king. Let's go to the next video clip, and you can see how the real prince comes to the castle and disturbs the coronation.
Hold! Who dares upset this sacred ceremony? Seize him!
Touch him not, for this is the true king.
Nonsense! Take this beggar away and let us continue with the crowning.
Lady Elizabeth, I beg you. If you hold your brother dear, help him now.
Elizabeth?
I said there was something strange about the boy. I told you.
Silence! My lord. Sire, this is no place for these tomfooleries. Think where this play act may lead.
Yes, there you can see Tom Canty says that he is the real king. You can see the truthfulness of that boy. The courtiers were reluctant to obey the person who looks like a pauper. Again, you can see one of the themes in this novel. People judge others by their attire or dress. Consequently, the identity of the true prince is discovered with the help of where the Great Seal is. Dramatically, the whereabouts of the Great Seal of England is known only to the Prince of Wales. But when someone sent for it, it is ironically not there. But only upon clever prompting from Tom, the true king is able to remember where the Great Seal was placed. When Tom Canty is now ordered to be arrested, the new king forbids it. You can see the gratefulness of the real king. His many and various experiences among the people of his realm have taught him valuable lessons in gratitude and justice. Let's go to the video clip, and you can see how Tom Canty prompts the real prince to find the Great Seal.
Argument carried, I think. Now take him away and let us proceed.
What about the Great Seal, sire? I have been asked for it 1,000 times, but I don't know its hiding place. The seal, of course. You, Uncle Seymour, go to my bedchamber, and close to the floor by the window, you will find a brazen nail head. Press it, and a little closet will fly open. There you will find the Great Seal.
Then, we are going to discuss chapter 33 and the conclusion. Continuing the contrast between the pauper and prince, Twain focuses on Miles Hendon as another pauper. Miles wants to use his friendship with Sir Humphrey Marlowe in order to gain access to the new king, who is reported to be very concerned over the many injustices in the land. Miles Hendon has just suffered a terrible injustice at the hands of his young brother Hugh, but dressed as a pauper, his chances of reaching royal audience are very impractical. So again he thinks of his dress. He can't reach the king wearing this pauper's dress. However, in Twain's plot, young King Edward has described in great detail the man known as Miles Hendon. A man fitting Edward's description is discovered in the neighborhood of Westminster. It becomes a part of the plot, and the king's whipping boy ultimately discovers Miles. So you can see in the picture the whipping boy Humphrey Marlowe and Miles Hendon. So Humphrey Marlowe is the person who finds Miles Hendon. Finally, this royal whipping boy reports the presence of Hendon, but before he comes to the court, he is arrested again. Luckily, the letter that young Edward wrote, can you remember that letter? Yes, written in 3 languages, in Latin, Greek and English, is found on Miles' body and saves him at the correct time. Even when Miles is finally brought before the king, he can still not believe that his mad young friend is really King of England. Then Miles tries to sit in the king's presence. That is a fail-proof test of the king's identity. Let's go to the video clip. You can see how Miles Hendon comes to meet the king, and you can see his facial expressions. Miles sits in the presence of the king.
A chair for Lord Delafield. Have you forgot your privilege already? For all who hold the earldom of Delafield may sit in the presence of the sovereign. This we have decreed. And now, Miles, sit, for truly I think you need to. Very well. Bring in our next visitors.
Sir Hugh Hendon and Lady Edith de Boon.
Sir Hugh, Lady Edith, you may approach.
Your Majesty does me too much honor in summoning me here.
I think you know my trusted friend, Lord Delafield.
Have I had the pleasure of your acquaintance, sir?
I would say so, Hugh. Yes. You. Me.
Miles.
Hold your tongue.
Come, Sir Hugh, don't enrage us with further lies. As it is, we remember you ordered the King of England whipped.
But, Your Majesty, I never knew...
Yield then the lands, the house, and all which justly is your brother's. Do this at once, and I'll resist the urge to hang you.
Very well, sire. Henceforth, the property is all Lord Delafield's. Am I dismissed?
One more thing. Lady Edith, would you be freed from your betrothal?
Alas, Your Majesty, I gave my word to old Sir Richard. He is dead and cannot now release me.
But there is one who can. Sir Hugh?
Lady Edith, I release you. There will be no wedding.
Oh, but I think there will. Now leave us.
Yes. Now in the video clip, I think you can see the young king keeps his promise. So he gives the opportunity to Miles Hendon to sit on the presence of the king. Then you can see his gratefulness towards Miles Hendon. Good is rewarded and evil is punished. So you can see the evil person, Miles Hendon's brother, Hugh Hendon. The king punishes him, and Lady Edith again gets her love. The last chapter of the novel concerns itself with tidying up all the details that were left hanging after the climactic incident of the plot. Ultimately, young Edward eventually be restored to his rightful place on the throne of England. Now in the picture you can see how he became the king. He became a good king. Twain tells us that Edward long remembered all of his experiences when he lived as a pauper among his subjects. He rewarded those who showed honor and mercy and justice, and he punished those who were wicked and cheap and evil. We have witnessed the education of a king. At the beginning, he was an innocent boy who grew up in the royal apartment. But later, he gained maturity as he was exposed to the very worst extremities of life. Living as a pauper, despised and hated by most people. So that is first-hand experience the prince got. All these experiences made him become a wise and tolerant king. Although his rule was brief, he was always just. Let us discuss the themes. So we came to the end of the analysis of the chapters. So our next step is discussing the themes. As you know the story well now, you can easily understand the themes. The first one, the gap between the rich and the poor, or differences in society. Did you notice from the beginning, Twain deals with the class difference, rich class and poor class. Then, clothes, appearance can be deceiving. So, in other words, theme of appearance and reality. We say not to judge a book by its cover. Cover might be beautiful, but the story inside might not be interesting. On the other hand, cover might not be attractive, but the story inside the book might be interesting. Then, value of truth. Did you notice both the prince and Tom Canty always tell truth? Weakness and stupidity of the ruling class. They can't identify that Tom Canty is not the real prince. Then, unawareness of the ruling class about the poor. They knew nothing of this poor class. Then, theme of madness. You find courtiers thought that Edward is mad, and family members of Tom Canty thought Tom Canty is mad, and there you find dangerous mad hermit also. Then, intelligence, experience, environment, and one's inborn natural qualities help him or her to reach success. Tom Canty is the best example. although he was born to a poor family, he was able to get adapted to the environment in the palace. Importance of adapting to one's circumstances. So again you can see Tom Canty got adapted to the life of the palace, and on the other hand the prince also got adapted to the life of the pauper. Human trait of being dissatisfied with what one has and yearning for something different. So did you notice when the prince comes to know about the life of Tom, he was very much eager to have such kind of freedom. He was not satisfied with all of his accomplishments. On the other hand, Tom Canty was not satisfied with his life. He was dreaming to become a prince. The other point is the contrast between Henry VIII and Edward VI. You know, Henry VIII is a very cruel king, but Edward VI is very kind king. Cruel type of law and judicial system in the reign of King Henry VIII. So we will discuss them later in detail. Then innate goodness of children. So the writer has given lots of positive thoughts regarding children. So you find these two boys have very good qualities, who are Tom Canty and the prince. As well, can you remember the two girls at the farmhouse? They are the only people who believe that this is the prince. Then you find good is rewarded, evil is punished. So we can see some examples. Let's how good is rewarded at the end of the story. Edward got his rightful position, that is the first one. Then Miles became the owner of Hendon Hall and married Edith. Then Tom and Judge were given promotions. The daughters of baptized women and slave, I think you can remember the name Yokel, were rewarded. The woman who owned the dressing pig and the two girls at the farmhouse were rewarded. On the other hand, evil is punished. Let's see the examples. Hugh was banished to the continent and there he died. John Canty went into hiding. The prison officer and police constable were punished. Yes. Then let's go to some other themes. Next one is Manchunism. There we find how John Canty and Hugh Hendon, how they treated women. You can see John Canty's ill treatment towards his wife, as well Hugh Hendon's treatment towards Lady Edith. Then next point is extreme power of royalty. King Henry VIII orders to kill Duke of Norfolk. He appoints his son as future king, though he is mad. The king wastes the money of ordinary citizens, keeping a large number of servants. Can you remember? The prince had more than 300 servants. He takes the lands of farmers by force. Writer uses humor and sarcasm to bring out this theme. Then the other point is humanity. People are human. Whatever differences they have, they share certain feelings and values. They feel in the same way. Next point is education through experience. You know, both boys got some kind of education. We discussed it earlier. Tom Canty came to know the life of the palace and the manners. On the other hand, the Prince Edward came to know about the common life of his country as well as the judicial system. Next point is each one to his own. One should claim only what one has the right to. That's why the real prince claimed for his throne, but not Tom Canty. Both are honest boys. Now we are reaching the end of today's lesson, so we can summarize the things we discussed today. Miles Hendon and the prince are in the prison. At the very beginning of the lesson, we came to know that. The prince sees how innocent people have to undergo cruel punishments because of English law. Sir Hugh orders that the young king should be given some lashes, but Hendon volunteers to take the lashes upon his own back. Miles Hendon, who is a victim of injustice, decides to arrange an audience with the new king. Young Edward and Miles Hendon miss each other in the crowd on the coronation day. Mother Canty identifies Tom Canty, who is wearing grand royal clothes. Ultimately, the rightful ruler is restored to the kingship, and Tom is allowed to return to being a simple citizen once again. Miles Hendon, Tom Canty, and other good fellows are rewarded. Evil fellows are punished. Then after that, we discuss the themes of this novel. Yes, hope you have enjoyed today's lesson, and remember your assignment. Don't forget to write the summaries of the chapters. You know, it will be very helpful for you when the exam is at hand. So, keep on writing. So, next day, we hope to discuss some questions, exam oriented questions. So, till we meet next day, goodbye.